Well, good Tuesday evening to you. Hope you've had a good start to the early part of the week. Time for a look at our Wednesday travel weather forecast. We're going to talk ports and also going to talk about airport hubs and where there might be some problems in the days ahead. Quickly, just to get you caught up on what we're watching this week, then I'll get into the port forecast and airport hubs. But Invest 95 did get an upgrade. Jerry's the name, you may notice from the last couple days. I did something I haven't done 32 years of forecasting. I've been so excited about the storm named Karen since June 1st because of obviously COVID and how that name took off on us in social media. So it's going to be, as long as it's not hitting anybody or hurting anyone, we can have some fun with that storm name. Different story, obviously, it looks like a potential landfall. But bottom line, I got so excited about Aunt Karen that I completely forgot about Uncle Jerry. I've never done that before, and he's mad. He sent me some emails today. But I do want to let you know, yes, it's Tropical Storm Jerry on its way to becoming a hurricane and still looking to reach areas just to the east of the U.S. and British Virgin Islands here at the end of the week. But it does not look to pass over them. I'll show you the models. The storm that's going to be developing on the South Carolina coast, again, that we're also talking about, that one looks like it could become Karen, but it also might be more of a hybrid or an extratropical system that doesn't technically earn a name. It doesn't matter what we're calling it. There's consistency in the models, and this one looks like it is going to cause problems in the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast this weekend and early next week. So let's dive into details. And let me get my big old fat head off the TV screen so you can see the ports and what we're watching. In Bimini, lovely day, about 82 for a high. A few passing storms in the Bahamas will be possible, like we've seen the last couple days, although I think just a slightly higher coverage around Nassau, as well as possibly Freeport. Seas very manageable, although just slightly higher in San Juan, where we're around 3 to 5 feet tomorrow. But a meter and a half or lower is not an issue for the ships, and not something you're really going to feel on board the ships. I do look for the likelihood that we're going to be seeing around a 70% coverage of storms there on the north side of Puerto Rico. Jamaica and Falmouth and Ocho Rios, 40 to 60% coverage of storms with highs in the low 90s. Same in Grand Cayman. And around the Dominican on the north side there, Puerto Plata, we are looking at some of our higher seas in the Caribbean at around 4 to 6 feet or up to about the 2 meter range. Again, large ships will have no problem with that. You will not feel it. It is not concerning. Just a slightly higher chop than what we're seeing in other Caribbean ports. And the really small vessels or tenders, that could be impactful. So just want to make sure you're aware of that. Cancun, Costa Maya, Cozumel, all looking like some brief passing storms, but Cozumel does look to be a little bit higher than the rest of the area. And Costa Maya, the seas are around 2 to 4 feet, so that should not be problematic for ships getting in. Those of you watching who are not familiar with that port, it isn't a port. It's literally just a pier off of the beach, so you're completely exposed as far as any swell if it develops, and as a result, unfortunately, a lot of times, it's the one that gets canceled more frequently than other Caribbean ports, but I don't think tomorrow. Down south and out east, we are looking at Aruba being a pretty lovely day. There always seems to be a quick little brief shower around Aruba. That's very common, but not a washout or a big problem. If you're out in the east and stopping in Bridgetown, Barbados for Wednesday, that's one of our highest sea readings at around 5 to 7 feet. But again, at around 2.1 meters and under, the ships will not have a problem with that. And again, I don't think you'll feel any of it. We really need to get above 3 meters or, above that 10 feet range before you start feeling anything on ships, especially the larger ones. So what about airports for tomorrow in the hubs? No fog is looking to be a concern at around Dallas, Chicago, Boston, or Denver. Some passing showers in Chicago. We had some earlier come through that caused some delays on Tuesday, but otherwise I think a pretty decent day weather-wise to get planes in and out of these airports. But when you jump down to Houston, we had some patchy fog this morning. Looks like that could be a possibility again Wednesday morning, and there could be some areas where it goes down to a half-mile visibility. So if that's over Intercontinental or Bush, that might cause some brief flight delays, both takeoff and landings, and just want to give you a heads up. Kansas City looks lovely at 63 and only an isolated shower. Same for LA. Might see some patchy fog also around the Miami metro, but not quite as low visibility as what we might see in South Texas and South Louisiana. And speaking of that, we did see a little bit thicker fog around New Orleans and Louisiana than we did in Texas. And that could be a possibility again tomorrow, down to about a half-mile visibility. Philadelphia, New York, Phoenix, not really worried about any weather issues. But when we get to San Francisco, Seattle, and Tampa, all three also could see some patchy, dense fog at times, with San Fran and the Bay Area a higher chance of lower visibility than what we might see in Florida or the Pacific Northwest, with DC at about a 40% coverage of storms and looking like a high of about 72. So with that, shall we dive into the details of our forecast for the extended outlook and in the tropical weather? This is Jerry, our 95L, and just want to show you again, just to reiterate that our forecasts are on track. We do expect it to grow to a hurricane. Most models put this between a 1 and 2. A couple go higher at 3 and 4. Not so sure that that's going to be the case, but I do think at least we're getting a hurricane out of this. And the model guidance, again, as you can see from where it's located, tightly compact, good model agreement. And then as we start to approach the northern islands of the Lesser Antilles up to the Virgin Islands, this is curving, and there's pretty high confidence that that is moving away from us. So having said that, I'm not anticipating any major surprises for us with Jerry, as again this curves and stays in the open Atlantic. But here comes the next system this weekend. This low that will form off the South Carolina coast. Again, I don't think we have a good handle of if it's going to be fully tropical, a hybrid system, nothing tropical, and only extra tropical, which is basically low pressure systems that can get super strong, but they don't have the tropical characteristics. For example, a true surface low. Extra tropical means that low could be in the mid or upper levels. You don't have to worry about knowing this. There's not a test, just walking you through some of the differences as to what classifies them. And with that said, this one is going to be up around the Northeast. I do think this could be bringing some heavy seas just outside of New York Harbor, but around Boston, around the coastlines of Long Island, New Jersey, and portions of New York. And especially as we are into Sunday, that looks to be some of the higher waves and wind speeds. You can see the wind speeds offshore around 46 miles per hour here. But actually, I want to show you a little better take on some of these wind speeds in the region. There you see the low developing. We're at Saturday morning, heading through late Saturday evening into Sunday morning. And then Sunday afternoon, these high winds are hugging the coastlines of, again, the Delmarva Peninsula up towards New Jersey, and then eventually around New York and into Long Island, with some of the higher wind speeds in that 50 mile per hour range. I do think some gusts could get into the 60 mile per hour range in some of these places. That's probably going to be producing some seas up in this area around 3 to 5 meters. That is enough chop that you would feel that on the ships. You're not canceling your routes going through this area for the most part. You're just having to fight through it, and it's safe to do so. It's just you'll feel the chop, and it will not be pleasant weather on the top decks of ships in these regions. Now, it would take a much stronger storm for me to be concerned about any ships transiting this area, so I just want to get you prepared if you are going into or leaving out of the Northeast or even the Mid-Atlantic, that there will be some chop until you can get south of this system into next week. So for the most part, those are the things that have my eye in the days ahead. I think looking into next week, for the most part, we are going to be tracking this system, whether it's Karen or not. Jerry will be in the open Atlantic. And the long-range models, for the most part, are not developing a whole lot. There's a weak system in the Gulf, for example, that looks to go right back into Mexico. But long-range is not looking too overly concerning, at least for tropics. So with that said, hope you have a great rest of your evening, or if you're watching this first thing Wednesday morning, and a good day for your Wednesday. I'll see you back here Wednesday evening with another fresh take of what the models have shown us and what changes we might be looking at for the end of the week and the weekend. In the meantime, have a good one, friends. See you tomorrow.